coming up. I get a rough idea. Hello and welcome to Live at Epiphan. This is episode 37. It's Thursday, of course, so we're here to talk about some interesting stuff. Today's a really good one. So obviously, if you guys have questions, comments, feedback, anything, throw it into the chat, Facebook, YouTube, the usual places, and we're watching it, so we'll answer those as we go ahead. Joining me today is a new member of the Live at Epiphan crew. This is Peter. And so what is our topic today?
So today we're doing a Q&A of some of the most commonly asked questions you guys send to our support team. And we're basically going to try and help people get set up with their AVIOs. I know there are a lot of questions about webcasters, so we're going to go through the most popular ones and see if we can simplify your lives, get you guys started off on the right foot.
Sounds like you're going to try and put me in a corner.
Yeah, well,
I'm
going to put you on the spot, see what we can do.
That's okay. That's no problem. I have not seen these questions, so I'm actually kind of interested to see what they are. I have a good idea because obviously I handle a lot of them day to day, but I'm interested to see what we came up with. Some news first. We've mentioned this for the past couple of weeks. Photo Joseph will be doing a live stream, beginner to pro, and teaming up with B&H Photo, doing that live stream. That is December 7th. I think that's going to be really cool. He's going to be talking a lot about Panasonic's cameras. They seem to have a great line of different cameras that can really help people with live streaming in conjunction with encoders like our equipment. So anyone interested in learning really in-depth stuff from someone who has a lot of knowledge and a great polished show himself, check that out on December 7th. So I mentioned, Peter, you're joining us for the first time.
Yeah.
Maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing sitting here.
Sure. So I'm a student, electrical engineering student from Waterloo, and I've been working for Epiphan for about 3 months on co-op. I've enjoyed my time so far. It's been great. It's a friendly group of people here. Working with equipment that I find interesting. I used to film videos for longboarding, snowboarding, that kind of stuff. So it's something that I have kind of an attachment to.
Cool.
So far
so
good.
When we threw you into the fire, onto a live stream, and absolutely turned your day upside down.
That's all right. Keep me on my toes.
Perfect.
Yeah, keep it interesting.
I'm happy to have you here. I'm going to treat you a little bit like Vanna White later when we bring out the questions, but it's going to be easy that way.
Honored.
So our main topic is this Q&A. So we get this actually, I think, internally within the company a lot. People ask us, what are the most common questions that the support team gets? That one can be hard because we talk to a lot of people every day. So we kind of, asked people to throw together a list, and I think that's what we have in our gigantic green bucket here. I have not seen these questions yet, so I don't know what's in there. Like I say, I think I know some of the things that might be asked. So
hopefully we can.
I'm going to get Peter to randomly pull some of these questions. I'm going to answer them. If you guys have other questions, if we don't have your question in this bucket, then please ask it in chat. I'm watching both Facebook and YouTube chat here, trying to multitask a little bit. And so let's jump in. Randomly dig around in there and pull out one of these questions. And I'm just going to take a look at some of the chats here.
Catch you off guard. Yeah, if you guys have any extra questions for George, try and keep him on his toes, keep him honest. All right, first question. What does insufficient bandwidth mean?
Okay, that's probably in reference to a Webcaster X2, as it is a warning that can pop up on the Webcaster X2. The warning is actually pretty literal. It literally means that the live stream bitrate you're trying to send out from the Webcaster, we're getting an interruption between Webcaster and Facebook or YouTube on the remote side. So their server's coming back and saying, listen, this data is a little broken up. Right. We're not getting it all. Normally that is because of insufficient bandwidth, literally meaning there's just not enough upload speed.
Okay.
So to resolve that would mean reduce the bit rate in the encoding settings on the Webcaster, take a look, do a speed test with a computer connected to the same upload and see what the speed is. If you're getting terrible speed, then you need to compensate. It potentially, as I said, it really is generated from the server side saying there's an interruption in data. It could potentially also be generated from a firewall that's interfering, that's blocking ports, things like that. So it is network related,
Yeah,
100%,
right, yeah.
but is typically a literal bandwidth limitation.
Okay. Let's see what else we have here. Can I stream with a Chromebook?
This is actually a good one I've had a couple of times in the past couple weeks. The answer is a little bit yes and no, and I know that's not clear. Usually this comes as a question with our AVIO USB frame grabbers, right? Someone looks at that and says, okay, well, if it's USB, I should be able to plug it into anything with USB, which obviously a Chromebook has.
Yeah.
The problem there is that Chromebooks running Chrome OS, there aren't really any or very little software options to use, right? You're not going to load OBS or Wirecast or Adobe or anything like that on a Chromebook, right? Because it runs on apps that are available for that Chrome OS only. It's not Windows. It's not Mac OS. It's not even Linux. It's its own environment. So that's one limitation. There's not a lot of software. You could use an AVIO as a webcam on a Chromebook in some applications.
Okay.
Chrome OS does have some limitations when it comes to using audio through those devices properly. I'm hoping something that Google fixes later on. The other challenge is obviously Chromebooks are based on very low-powered CPUs. So if you're trying to do, let's say record 4K, there's no way a Chromebook's going to do that.
Right.
It just doesn't have the processing power.
Right.
So is it possible? Yes, but is it practical?
Right.
No. I mean, it's not. Chromebooks are great because they're inexpensive.
Yeah.
Schools use them because of that. And if all you're doing is living within the Google environment, although Microsoft just launched the full Microsoft Office suite for Chrome OS.
Oh,
so
yeah.
they're very cool for tools like that, but they're not practical for doing real encoding work.
Okay.
So
there you go. Does Pearl 2 have Wi-Fi?
No, it does not. There's several reasons for that. The biggest being one of reliability. Wi-Fi, as convenient as it is, and I think everyone, because they use it day to day on their phone or their laptop or whatever, we might get a little too comfortable with Wi-Fi and forget that it actually kind of sucks.
Oh, right.
Any interference, if you're getting a weak signal already and someone starts a microwave, it's going to generate interference on the same sort of frequencies, and that can reduce it even more. If you're in a, let's say, a conference or a trade show environment, there are so many Wi-Fi signals, there is no way it's going to work because there's just too much clutter, there's too much interference. So it's also typically more limited in bandwidth compared to wired Ethernet. So Pearl 2 has gigabit Ethernet on it to make the most of reliability and speed. And if you're dealing with streaming in 4K or sending out multiple streams at the same time, as we do for Facebook and YouTube for this show, Wi-Fi very likely will fall apart or be subject to unknown conditions. So if you want the reliable way to do it, Ethernet's the way to go. So,
what USB 3 controllers are best for AVIO 4K Intel AMD?
This is a good one. Basically, we do get this one quite a bit, saying it's sort of a system spec type of a question. Which USB 3 controllers do we recommend? We typically say the Intel host controllers that are built into the Intel chipsets. That's not a hard rule. They just tend to be the best performing. Some of the others from AS Media, they can work just as well in most conditions. Really first generation, so we're talking 3 or maybe 4 to 5 year old computers that had first generation USB 3. A lot of those used either TI chips or NEC chips. The first generation NEC Renesas chips were terrible. They were awful. They only got about half the bandwidth of USB 3 spec. So they're awful to use. So if you have an older computer with a Renesas controller, replace it. And then one of the things we've run into very recently, because AMD Ryzen has become this big boom, everyone's loving that as a platform, and the CPUs are great. We've discovered, however, that there is a common bug with the X370 chipset. It has a USB 3 controller that doesn't work very well, and it actually does not work with AVIO 4K basically at all. It's apparently a known bug with many, many USB 3 devices, so it's not just us. And so I'm sure that'll get fixed. It'll be a driver or some patch that AMD will eventually roll out for that chipset. Usually boards that have that chipset also have an AS Media controller. So if you are someone who has an AMD Ryzen-based system and you're running into some issues, if you plug AVIO into the AS Media controller, you should be golden. Intel's never an issue.
All right, here's a long one.
Oh boy.
What kind of splitter should I use with AVIO 4K for streaming my game? YouTuber Rerez used.
Yeah, so that's a good one. People always ask about the splitter. As a general rule, pretty much anything should work. For some specific use cases, the ones that have been coming up recently have been things like PS4 Pro, the new Xbox One X, things like that. There are some. We'll put those into the comments to a link to one that a reviewer reviewing AVIO 4K used, and they said was actually really good. But generally speaking, most splitters should be fine. Sometimes it's a matter of connecting in certain order or what type of signals they support. And I think one of the reasons it's been coming up with the new game consoles a lot is those consoles have things like HDR and all these deep color, all these other things that you usually want to turn off, but sometimes the splitters kind of interfere with all of that. So we'll put some links below to the one that this reviewer recommended, and so far we agree that it is a good option. But that's really more of a 4K specific one. If you're dealing with just HD, pretty much anything will work. We always recommend powered splitters, though. This is critical. A passive splitter, which is basically a Y cable, when you're dealing with digital signals, and this is where it's going to get really technical, anything that involves EDIDs, you know what those are? The
handshake.
In a passive splitter, typically the splitter can't differentiate between the two EDIDs. And so it's a crapshoot as to what happens. And that's not a good thing.
Not great.
Powered splitters typically will always take the EDID from the first output port, sometimes labeled as the primary or master output, and ignore any of the others. So that's an ideal situation because then you actually have the flexibility of knowing, okay, I know I'm going to be drawing the EDID from my monitor or from AVIO or whatever you need to be the choice. So
good.
I'm going to take a look at a couple of questions in here just before we answer another one. One of them here from Ryan on YouTube asking, any future plans to implement NDI as an input for Pearl? It's something that we get asked quite a bit. We're considering it. We don't have a firm plan there, Ryan. Sorry, I don't have a guaranteed answer for you there. It's something we're considering, and we're looking at how we might implement that and what impacts it might have on Pearl in terms of performance and things like that. NDI is becoming a very popular protocol, so we're always keeping our eye out on things like that, but I don't have a firm yes or no on that one at the moment. Let's see. One of the questions here, will this integrate with streaming in academia for WebEx or Zoom? Speaking of Pearl 2. Both Zoom and WebEx are really teleconferencing solutions. They're not streaming platforms. They're really very different. So Pearl 2 does not directly integrate with those platforms as a streaming encoder because those platforms don't ingest streams the way YouTube or Facebook does. So it's a really different type of usage. That's actually a great one because we do get that question a lot. And it really is a matter of understanding which workflow, which use case your needs are within. If you need to bring in a bigger or better signal into those platforms, using something like AVIO as a capture card on a computer that's participating in those web meetings to bring in a higher quality camera, that's typically the way to go. But yeah, a streaming encoder like Pearl or Webcaster is not going to integrate with those web conferencing kind of tools. But great question. So let's jump back into the bucket here. What do we got?
Oh, here's an easy one for you.
Okay.
Where can I buy Epiphan products?
It's harder than it might sound.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
We do sell directly on our website, obviously, but geographically it can make a difference.
Okay.
So if you're in the U.S., we sell on Amazon, we sell on B&H, we sell directly. Elsewhere in the world, we have a where to buy page on our website. So if you're on epiphan.com, there's a buy button and there's a dealer locator where to buy section there. It will look at where you're coming from and automatically bring up that list for your region. Yeah. That's the easiest way to find out where you can buy because we do have dealers all over the world in many countries and sometimes multiple in some countries. Yeah. So looking at that list and which ones maybe you already do business with, if you have accounts, things like that, or just a preference, taking a look at that list. If you don't have that, if when you look at that where to buy list, nothing comes up for your country, send us an email, just info@epiphan.com or live@epiphan.com, like we always say for the show. Yeah. Myself and the support team will get you in touch with our sales team. They'll work with you to identify a partner or selling direct or whatever might be necessary so that we can make that happen. Yeah.
We will get it to you.
We will make it happen
One
somehow.
way or another, you will get it.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Why would someone buy Webcaster X2 if you can stream from your phone?
That's one I think we've probably covered quite a bit on this show. The reason is image quality. I mean, if you're using a phone, you're stuck with whatever these cameras can do. Now, obviously, smartphone cameras have come a long way in the past number of years, but at the end of the day, they do struggle in certain environments. The div zoom is, for the most part, with some exceptions, always digital, which really is just cropping. So as you zoom, it looks worse. Yeah. So it's terrible in a big room. Right. Like if you have to be in the back of a hall shooting the front, a phone's going to do a terrible job. They're often bad in low light because you can't make much adjustment to aperture and all these other kind of things. So if you want a really, really, really professional looking live stream, you want to use a real camera. We've mentioned it many times. For this show, we often use interchangeably a little bit either a Canon C100 Mark II or the Sony Alpha A6300. The difference in image quality and control that you can get between those two cameras and a smartphone is night and day. Yeah. But taking those real cameras, running them through Webcaster means that your live stream can benefit from what those cameras can do. So that's why. That's really why. Plus, I mean, phones run on batteries. What if it dies in the middle of your stream, right? Yeah. So I'm going to take another look at some questions here because we did have a few more coming in. I'm just going to look quickly. Some people are asking, John's asking about transitions on Pearl 2. Right now, there is just the cut. We actually find a lot of the feedback from customers in the field that 99% of them are just using the cut anyways. Okay. We have looked at adding transitions, John. It's something that may come in the future. It's not there today, but it is something we're considering. I don't think we'll ever have star wipe though, so I don't want to crush people's dreams, but I don't think that's ever going to happen. And someone's also asking about implementing H.265 on Pearl. On Pearl 2, the hardware is capable of H.265. There may be some limitations within that we're exploring and figuring out how we might be able to do it. But when we designed Pearl 2 in particular, Pearl 1 is not capable of H.265. Pearl 2, it's one of the things that we may have in the future as we work on that. All right. Back to the bucket. Back to the bucket. What do we got?
All right. What is the best recording software for AV-IO 4K?
I guess that depends on if you are planning on recording 4K or whether you're scaling 4K down to HD or just straight HD all the way through. The number of applications that can actually record in 4K is not a long list. It's partly because it requires a pretty powerful system to do 4K recording. So OBS, which is one we've talked about a lot on the show, that's one that can. vMix is another. I was playing around with Wirecast 8.1 the other day, and there is a way to do it, but you have to create a custom preset.
Okay.
It's not in their predefined
Right.
selectable options.
Yeah.
So, and I found that the performance wasn't very
Bit
good.
more
That
of a
might have just
hassle.
been the computer I was using.
Okay.
But I was getting about 8 or 9 FPS when I had defined a 4K, which is not.
Yeah,
I mean,
not-
if you're not doing
not
at least
ideal.
30, it's not
Yeah,
really worth
yeah.
it. So, it depends. I would probably myself personally look to either OBS or vMix.
Okay.
Both are great software. Big advantage of OBS obviously being that it's free, but it's also open source. So if you're having problems, you're on your own,
Yeah.
basically. vMix is a great piece of software as well, but it's not free. So
Right.
take your pick.
Yeah, give and take. All right, how many inputs can Pearl 2 capture?
In HD 1080p, 6. In 4K, up to 4.
Yeah.
What you do with them from there can then change a little bit. So if you look at the specs on Pearl 2, if we're doing full HD 1080p,
Yeah.
we could have 6 inputs coming in
Right.
and as many as 6 encoded streams or records
Right.
going out.
Wow.
In 4K, we come down to 1.
Yeah.
So although we could have multiple 4K inputs, it would be
Yeah.
1 encoded or streamed.
Right.
Because again, as we just talked about, 4K is so much more
Yeah.
demanding.
Yeah.
It's when you look at it, 4K is 4 times the resolution. It requires 4 times.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they kind of go hand in hand.
Makes sense, yeah.
Probably do a couple of more of these from the bucket. I'll look at the
Yeah.
chat one more time and then
Sure.
we'll kind of move on.
Okay, can Webcaster X2 do a custom RTMP stream?
Do you get this question a lot?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, no. Webcaster is, for a lot of reasons, but primarily for simplicity, uses the APIs from Facebook and YouTube. Because of that, there is no interface or anything like that to enter custom RTMP information. I know it's something a lot of people ask about. They would love to see.
Yeah.
Never say never, but
Yeah.
at the moment, no. It is dedicated to using the APIs from those two platforms.
Right.
It doesn't mean that additional things can't be added to Webcaster. It's just a matter of building an app with an API
Yeah.
to put it in. But, that takes time and development. So, we'll have to see.
Yeah. Future will tell.
Exactly.
Are you a robot?
Not the last time I checked. I'm sorry to say that this is actually a common question that we
Yeah,
get on
that's
live chat.
from the live chat. Yeah,
Yeah,
from the live chat.
Believe it or not, I think I get this question far more than I care to, but no.
So
I am-
every time that pops up, that is you.
If you get a live chat pop up on our website,
Yeah.
now this may change in the future as people implement, AI things and stuff like that. But if you jump on live chat between 8:30 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern time, you are talking to a human being. So if you're trying to troll us or you're being rude,
Yeah.
we are human beings and not robots.
If only you could dish it right back.
Professional courtesy says I cannot.
Exactly. Can Webcaster X2 stream to Facebook and YouTube at the same time?
Another common question on Webcaster. No, it cannot. Has a selector between one or the other
Right.
platform, so it is one at a time. If you want to do something like what we do for this live show, simultaneous platforms, that's when you really need to jump up to an encoder that has a lot more power,
Right.
and that's where something like Pearl 2 comes
Yeah.
into play. Webcaster's a great little box, but with simplicity and size and low power comes some trade-offs,
Yeah.
and one of them is that it just doesn't have the muscle to do
Yeah.
it simultaneously, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So if you find that you're in a professional environment, you need, more platforms.
Yeah.
If some of you have seen episodes a while ago, we did Facebook, YouTube, Vimeo Live, all at the same
Oh,
time,
yeah.
right?
Oh, wow.
With Pearl, you could do that no problem, assuming you have the bandwidth.
Right.
So it has the grunt to do
Right.
that.
Yeah.
I'm just going to take a look
Yeah.
here and see what questions we have. And you want to grab one more from the bucket.
Yeah.
and then
Sure. I'll make sure it's a good one.
Look here, yeah. One person was asking, when we stream to YouTube, it saves as high-res video so we can skip local recording and storing. Yeah, you can. If you're using something like Webcaster, if you're doing a live stream to YouTube under 4 hours in length, and this part is critical because this is a function of those APIs.
Right.
Facebook is the same.
Yeah.
If it is under 4 hours in length, it can automatically convert to VOD so that you don't have to have a local recording to upload later. Your stream will automatically convert. Once it's converted on YouTube, you can go into their editing tools, trim heads and tails, do some other little stuff if you want.
Right.
So, yeah, absolutely. If you're doing YouTube streaming, you don't have to necessarily be doing a local recording. If you want to as a backup, that's not a bad idea because you never know.
Yeah.
But if that's from your camera or something like that, that's,
Then,
you know.
yeah, pretty safe.
Again, something like Pearl can do both at the same time built into it,
Right.
including ISO recording and a lot of fancy stuff.
Yeah.
So it depends on where on that scale you are. Like I guess the Photo Joseph stream coming up, he's doing beginner to pro, right?
Yeah.
Where are you on that scale?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
That's sort of where that comes in. Another one here. Let's see. One here from John saying he's having some issues getting the HDMI on a Pearl working. What troubleshooting tools would you recommend? I would say reach out to our support team, myself. Either just send us an email or jump on live chat, and we'll try and assist you there. Troubleshooting. I mean, that depends on the scenario, but that can start with the basics of just verifying other signals, stuff like
Right,
that.
yeah.
Just following the sort of logical, normal troubleshooting path. But give us a call, drop us an email. We're happy to try and help as any way we can. Another one we hear was any plan to add scheduled recordings based on time of day for Pearl? That is one we get a lot of questions on with Pearl. It's possible now to externally do that by leveraging the APIs that Pearl has. It doesn't have a calendar app built into Pearl.
Right.
Some people have built their own and leveraged the APIs in order to do that. So it depends, again, on how deep you want to go. If you want to develop your own external control, it's definitely possible using the APIs. Is it something we have considered? Absolutely, but again, I think the list in the product manager's office for Pearl 2 features is about 10 miles long, and it's a matter of choosing what the priorities are. So, definitely something that we would, in a perfect world, love to add, and we may down the road, but I don't have a specific time frame for that. I don't know if this is a question, but thanks, Scott. I appreciate that feedback. Scott, who has become a bit of a friend of the show, I would say, says we should build a bigger Webcaster X3. Well, hey, man, I mean, the future is the future.
Yeah.
We'll see. Who knows? There's lots of possibilities out there. We will definitely let you know, Scott, and if we have something that we can have you play with, we'll be in touch.
Yeah.
All right, let's do one more question,
Last
and then
question.
we're probably going to wrap this up, guys. So
All
if
right.
there are any other questions you have, throw them into chat quickly, and we're going to hit one more here for the bucket.
Here we go. Last one. Is Webcaster X2 free software? Is there Webcaster X2 free software I can download?
No. Again, this is a very common question that we get from live chat. Probably, I don't know. I think I've lost count the number of times a day I get this question.
Of course.
I think what happens is we Webcaster X2 is listed on a YouTube support page as a recommended encoder along with a bunch of others. I think the problem is that support page doesn't really differentiate between whether it's a link to a software package or a hardware package.
Okay.
And so people assume that they're all software and click through, end up on
see.
our website.
Yeah.
The live chat pops up saying, hey, let's chat about Webcaster. And they think it's going to be a free download like OBS. And no, Webcaster is a hardware device. It is not free. But yes, we do get that a lot. And I think it is just that, there's sort of I don't know if, YouTube is listening, they might want to break that differentiation apart a little more. But there's multiple ways to do YouTube streaming, so I understand where the question's coming from. And everybody would love, ideally, to have, the best possible thing for the lowest possible price, and somewhere we can meet in the middle, hopefully.
Yeah.
Going to look at chats. One more thing here. One person was asking about NDI. I mentioned that earlier. Never say never, but is not currently there. John asked you, would we consider adding a second Ethernet port to Pearl for management? That's a good question, John. We haven't considered that for the Pearl platform. I can definitely understand where you're coming from with that one, but it's not something we've really considered. But that's one I can definitely add to the list of things for maybe potential future hardware platforms. Certainly on Pearl and Pearl 2 as they exist today, it wouldn't be possible. But Pearl 3 maybe, we'll see. We'll see. But that's an interesting point. And we had an old, big, gigantic server rack mount system back in the day that did have 2 Ethernet ports, and nobody used more than one. So it kind of went onto the feature list that got scratched.
Right, yeah.
So, but yeah, I can definitely see where that would be handy. Ryan asking, can you build config files for the Pearl without a Pearl? No, unfortunately. When you build them on one Pearl, you can download the config presets and import them to other Pearls, but they do have to be built on a Pearl as a point of origin. Yeah. So yeah. I think we'll probably wrap it up there. Great questions, guys, both from the bucket and online. Really appreciate that. If you do have any other questions, continue to put them into chat. Send us an email, live@epiphan.com, or jump on our live chat and ask us, hopefully, some sensible questions, unlike some of the ones we talked about today. And we'd love to hear your feedback and questions and do what we can to help. So next week, I actually have no idea what our topic is next week.
Yeah.
And
surprise.
So I know we're working on a bunch of stuff. There's like this list of really cool things, and I honestly have been too busy this week to know what is coming.
Yeah.
So, but I can say for sure that whatever it is will be interesting.
Now, are you guys going to let them know, or is it going to be show up and find out?
Well, we might have to do a little bit of
a
little teaser at
taste.
some point for that one, since, like I say, there's like probably half a dozen options that we've been working on. So, yeah, we'll definitely let you guys know, and of course, stay tuned for that. I can guarantee it'll be interesting, whatever it is. So we'll get there. So that's it. I'm George.
I'm Peter.
Peter joining us for the first time. So those of you can give Peter a virtual round of applause for jumping in and helping me out with these questions today. And as always, join us every Thursday, 3 o'clock Eastern, for Live at Epiphan, where we will talk about all kinds of different streaming stuff. So definitely subscribe, like, and all those things. And we'll see you next week. Thanks.